he beats every single jungler in the game in the early to mid game. So if you want to play for, let's say, a Dragon Soul win condition and you want to get the early Herald, he's a champion that can easily facilitate that. So that's also why we looked him in. We knew he would win any matchup against any other jungler.
Hi everyone, it's Tom reporting from the LEC Spring Split, and with me here is YoungBuck, the coach of Xayah, who just won their game in the second week. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing quite alright. It was nice to end the week on a win.
Yeah, I can imagine so. The game itself, especially the beginning, felt pretty boring, I guess, for the viewers because not much was happening. But for you guys, was that the strategy with this draft? Playing against Excel, guys, we're gonna take it slow and we'll take them over in the late game.
Going into the draft, that wasn't really the strategy. We actually wanted to also have strong early game and basically push them back, but they just drafted champions that cannot be counted in that kind of strategy. You know, the first big Lucian, then you have mid priority against every single mid laner in the game, I think. And Udyr is also the strongest early game jungler in the game. So, and then they picked a very dirty bot lane, I would say. So they basically forced priority in the draft, and in that case, we have to take it slow, and it's basically on Astralis to push us around and try to get the game over with in, let's say, 25 to 30 minutes, and they couldn't do it. And then from our end, it was very slow, but it had to be slow, and I guess it was an alright game. We didn't really get to show that we're a good team. We just got to kind of show that Astralis wasn't good enough to finish with the tools that they had, and so it's not a great way to win, really, but we take them.
Yeah, I think that definitely echoes the sentiment that many people felt. It wasn't like a great game to watch, but in the end, you guys managed to get the win and secure this. Talking a bit more about the draft, I'm curious to hear more about the Xayah Rakan. It's not a bot lane we've seen so far in the LEC, so can you tell me a bit more about this?
Sure. Basically, we have a few jokers that we can use throughout the split for a free win, and Xayah Rakan is one of them, and we decided to use it today. And later in the split, you'll see a Malphite top, and we also have the Braum as a joker. But no, I just think personally that Xayah Rakan is always very strong in every single meta, and people always write it off. And if there's a place for Xayah Rakan and it's drafted, it's usually extremely potent on stage.
Yeah, and why did you feel then that against Astralis you had to pull one of those jokers or trump cards out? Some people would say, okay, save your trump cards for when you play the G2s, the Fanatics, the Rogues, so you can have more of an edge. So why is it then specifically Astralis' composition that you felt, okay, we need to whip this out to edge out the win?
Yeah, so the joker is mostly like an inside joke for us.
Okay.
But it's not that we can't play it again or that we get one actual free win, of course. But we had a really rough game yesterday, and afterwards, I was also thinking, let's play Xayah. And Patrick also reached out to me and said, "Hey, what do you think about using one of our jokers jokingly?" You know, he hinted at Xayah Rakan. Tor wrote me, "Hey, should we play Xayah Rakan today?" And when all three of us are aligned on that, then it's pretty telling that it's
okay.
time.
Let's go, guys. Let's make it a bit more comfortable for us and make it a bit more. You know, definitely makes most sense. And you touch on the match of yesterday, and I think overall, of course, in the opening weekend, 7 teams had a 1-2 weekend start, but you also lost yesterday. Which was a bit of a rough start, I suppose, to the team, especially when you have people like Chocolate and Dan coming in who are rookies, who obviously are burning with this passion. Okay, we have to win immediately. So how was the mood in the team overall then in this start of the split?
I think it wasn't too bad in the first week because when you have Rakan G2 on the schedule, I think losing to them is not gonna evaporate your dreams in front of your eyes. And we really got away with murder against Schalke, so we were counting our blessings. I think I felt like we maybe got a second chance that we shouldn't have had because we should be 0-3. And I think us also ending the week against G2 with a relatively decent showing made us feel a lot more comfortable. But I think the game against Mad Lions really hit us hard because, very simply put, we drafted a strong mid lane jungle combination, we drafted a strong bot lane combination after level 3, but the game was literally over at 4 minutes and 13 seconds. And after that, it was just basically unplayable. we found some things in the game against Mad Lions, but we knew after 4 minutes, like, okay, this is not gonna end well. This everyone that's supposed to be strong in the game right now is actually behind it. That really shook our confidence. So it's really great that we got back on the horse, on the saddle, and beat Astralis today.
Yeah, it's good to hear that the team feels then at least somewhat resilient, because after one day already, you guys are back, climb back on the horse. You're feeling comfortable playing against Astralis. Now, again, the match itself could maybe leave a bit to be desired, but to have that confidence within the team, okay, guys, we can clutch this out, and in the end, you guys did. I guess that restores a lot of faith. And you did mention the match against G2 as well, and I think many people were very surprised by how well you guys played against them. So after that opening weekend, how did you evaluate that with your team then? Say, okay, we got the win against Shokan of Fear, which we perhaps shouldn't have gotten, but we also played very well against Rogue, or against G2. I guess Rogue was a bit of a tougher match. So how did you evaluate that with your team?
I think we just wanted to keep stay on the same path, because we've actually mainly been practicing early to mid game compositions where we do have priorities and we can play for Drakes and Heralds and early fights. It just happened to be that against Rogue, I think there was a pretty equal draft, and they pulled out a Kalista, which you don't see that often. So they got bot lane priority, even though we kind of drafted with the intention to have bot lane priority from the start. And we saw Schalke's opening game, and we were like, there's no way these guys can close out the game against us if we're going to go scaling. And so we did with there was the Lulu pick.
Yeah.
And then against G2 was kind of the game where we said, okay, it's G2, we have not much to lose, we're just going to play what we've been practicing. And that's where I think we showed Exile that we want to be. And it wasn't enough to beat them, but it's the first time on stage that we actually played with like very clear, strong early game, and that we were in control. And yesterday against Mad Lions was supposed to be the second one, but we got obliterated in the first 5 minutes, basically. Yeah. And today we wanted to do it again, but once again, they just drafted disgusting champions, basically, and and put their own faith in their hand. But we would have loved to have a very competitive draft where we could actually contest the early game, but they decided it was not going to happen, and they were going all in on the first 10, 20 minutes.
So a champion you played against today, and you piloted with your team last weekend, was Udyr in the jungle. And I saw Dan joke, I think, on Twitter. He said like bait Rogue and G2 with the Udyr so he can farm wins against against Astralis now. What are your thoughts about the champion in the meta at the moment? Then we've seen it in LCK. It's appearing now a bit more in the LEC as well.
Yeah, so it's a champion that without a leash can still clear the entire jungle, so all 6 camps, and be in time on the crab, which is great. So he has probably the fastest clear of any jungler in the game, and it's a very farm heavy meta. Now, with that said, of course, Udyr with a lot of farm doesn't necessarily do a whole lot. So, but he beats every single jungler in the game in the early to mid game. So if you want to play for, let's say, a Dragon Soul win condition, and you want to get the early Herald, he's a champion that can easily facilitate that. So that's also why we looked him in. We knew he would win any matchup against any other jungler, and then if we draft priorities with it, that means we should have very solid control over the game. And then the dragons and the heralds should cross us over the finish line, because of course Udyr on 2-3 items is not the strongest champion, but before that he basically wins every 1v1, 2v2.
Yeah.
So that's kind of his place in the meta.
So it's basically more of an early game insurance for your team. Okay, at least we have this, maybe if our lanes do not go too well in the start, then we at least have an Udyr who can be ahead in the farm and run around and gank. And
he basically ensures that if you can contest a Drake, which you should with Udyr, and if you draft decent enough lanes, especially a bot lane, then you're going to get that first dragon. You're going to be able to contest the first herald, because that's where Udyr is really strong, and he's also still strong at least before 20-25 minutes. He's still a pretty strong champion. So you basically just say, okay, we're going to get 4 Drakes, and we're going to end the game with that, and the gold lead that we get from having strong lanes and rich heralds.
The final topic I want to touch on is the growth that Exile is going to go through. We saw last year, obviously, in the Spring Split, you guys were hovering around the bottom, but in the Summer Split, you guys almost made it to the playoffs, and you guys were looking actually very impressive, especially if you look at the resources you had compared to a team like Fnatic, which had internationally renowned players and was also hovering around the same score. Leave alone Origin, who were at the far bottom with a team that easily should go to the top. But that was a process that took some building over the course of the year. Is that a project that you look to repeat this year, obviously with the aim to make it to the playoffs this year, where you say, okay, Spring Split we use to build a foundation, and then Summer Split we go all out? Or do you see it different for the team that you have assembled for this year?
I see it different because last year it felt that we made a big step to go full European and make sure that everyone was living the same culture and spoke the language fluently.
Mm-hmm.
And we're basically doing the same, but with 2 different players. And of course, Spring Split isn't as important as summer, but we're trying to do our best to place as high as possible in the spring
Mm-hmm.
because I think generally speaking, teams that don't do well in spring don't just start to turn it on for the summer. I think
Mm-hmm.
you lay a foundation here and a lot in the preseason, and you get to know a little bit of each other in the first weeks on stage and what we can and can not get away with, but
Mm-hmm.
uh, definitely looking to make a good impression in the short term.
All right, YoungBuck, thank you very much for joining me today, and well, good luck in the rest of the split as well.
Thank you very much.